Hey there, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tales from the Podcast. I'm your host, JB, of course. Before we go ahead and jump into this episode, which I'm sure everybody's so anxious to hear about this random episode from season 6, but before I get into that, I want to remind everybody we still got this fucking comic book for sale. You can go and find it over at talesfromthepodcast.com. Go scroll down till you find the little Tales of Shock and Terror logo. Click that shit, buy it. Then you can get a copy, you can touch it, you can do whatever you want to. I mean, I personally like just letting it sit there. I've already read it, but you can do whatever the hell you want to. Buy 4 of them, use them as placemats. I don't care. Enjoy it though. Anyway, um, before we go ahead and jump into this, I want to say thank you to some of the sponsors for the show as well. So go ahead and check out House Mysterious Secrets over at housemysteriousSecrets.com. Use our code 4130 and save 10% on some awesome horror merch. They have everything from t-shirts, toys, face masks. Basically, if you're into spooky shit, you're going to love what the fuck they got going on over there. And also, a big thank you to a friend of the show, Sydney. And go ahead and check out what she has going on over on her Etsy site. The link for that is all over the website, as well as the show notes for every podcast. And use our code TFTP20 and save 20%. She does wax melts, great scents, lovely. And I mean, let's be honest, we all like our houses to smell nice. But who doesn't like to have them in horror shapes like bloody bars, vampire teeth, skulls, poison apples? I mean, she does a great job, and I'm proud of her. So thank you, Sydney, and check that out as well. But anyway, we are here to talk about a few things. But before we get into that, let me go ahead and introduce my guest for this evening, and Myrna.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. How about yourself?
Really good, thanks.
Yeah. So, anyways, we're going to be talking about an episode of Tales from the Crypt, but I know you got a lot of stuff that you're working on right now too. Um, anyway, before we get too deep into it, um, can you tell us just a little bit about it? Because I know that you are working on a movie right now, and I believe it's called "It Came from Somewhere," and it was a 1950s throwback type movie.
Yes, so we're about to begin production. We're going to start filming September 8th, and It Came From Somewhere is a 1950s style sci-fi creature feature film. It's going to be feature length, about 70 minutes, and we're basically giving a nod to filmmakers of the past like Ed Wood and Roger Corman, kind of bringing that 50s style. And it's not a fan film, it's an original story, but we're going to make sure that we keep all the aspects of 50s filmmaking intact, like the acting style, the cheesy props, the type of shots that they use to film it. Even stock footage, cheesy props. So we've got aliens, we've got a creature, we've got a spaceship. What more could you ask for?
Um, well, I could ask for quite a few things, but we'll have to talk about that here in a little bit. I, uh,
Absolutely.
I do have a question though, why that topic's up there. With that being said, are you guys actually going to be doing any filming on film, or is
No,
this?
we're going to
Oh,
use
okay.
today's technology to film it, and then we'll in post production we'll go black and white and the 4:3 aspect ratio.
Ah, very, very cool. So, anyways, we'll be jumping back into that, and that's
Sounds
really
good.
fucking exciting. I'm really excited to talk a little bit more about that. But I had you watch a show, and I'm very curious to think or to hear what you thought of this show. So, obviously, with this being a Tales from the Crypt based podcast, and this being your first time on, I have to ask, what got you into such, stuff like this? And I'm obviously saying that assuming that you actually enjoyed the episode, but um, but obviously, with you working on stuff like the came from somewhere. There are a lot of loose connections. So, like Tales from the Crypt, for instance, and let's just go ahead and be fairly specific. This episode, which we are doing, is from season 6, and it's episode 4, called Operation Friendship. Now, this is based off a comic book, Tales from the Crypt 194, or sorry, Tales from the Crypt, issue number 41. Now, all these comic books, actually, these horror books from EC, came out between 1950 and 1954 for the most part.
Mhm.
So, I mean, there's definitely a pretty big connection, especially considering, like a lot of these books, especially with what you're doing, we got like weird science, weird fantasy, a lot of alien stories that come out of there too. So it's,
Uh-huh.
there's definitely a lot of really cool tie-ins, but um, is there anything in particular that, got you into Tales from the Crypt though? Now I know you said this wasn't exactly maybe a first time viewing for this episode, but I know you've seen this show before.
Yeah. So just a little bit about like the time frame and stuff. I had my children in the early 1990s. So a lot of times when your kids are real little, you are feeding them, changing diapers, whatever, but you need to have your mind on something other than childcare. So you turn to the TV, and I was interested in horror actually from back when I was in high school, which was in the 70s. So things like Count Yorga Vampire. I mean, that was one of the first like super scary movies that I went to with my older cousins. Like they dragged me along. And so I started loving that kind of stuff. I mean, Dark Shadows used to be on TV, so I kind of have a thing for the vampire stuff. But even like just seeing the Tales from the Crypt logo again and the intro and stuff, it's like, oh, it like pulls you like right back to that time period. And even though I was very sleep deprived in the early 90s because my children were really little, I really get into like all kinds of either like actual horror, like slasher kind of stuff, vampires, or also kind of psychological horror, like a lot of the Twilight Zone stuff.
Mm.
I'm like super into, and this episode kind of reminded me a lot of the Twilight Zone.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's there's definitely a few things there. This was I guess we'll just go ahead and jump into it. But this episode really wasn't too horror themed, I guess, as far as some of the other ones in here. Um, but let's go ahead and just throw it out there. So this episode originally aired November 9th of 1994. So at that time, I would have been 6. But now this right here was directed by Roland Mesa, and the screenplay was done by Rob Ross. Um, I will say that I'm not too personally familiar with have I guess I have seen some of his stuff, but Rob Ross in general, he's mostly known for doing the Royal Canadian Air Force, which he was a writer for that. Did a little bit of acting and done some like comedy type stuff, but he was never really big on much. Um, Now it really shows, to say the least. Now this is based off of, I believe, like an 8-page story, and I'm gonna be honest. The comic book is a million times better than what we got on this episode, and I'm sorry to say it, and it happens from time to time. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Now, to jump into this episode, we got Tate Donovan in this episode, which I'm pretty sure everybody probably recognized him. He's a very, very familiar face. I mean, dude's been in a ton of stuff and is still in a ton. Um, he did the MacGyver series, the newer one. He does a lot of video game stuff like Kingdom Hearts, the Limitless shows, 24, Deception. I mean, the guy's been in just a shit ton of stuff. The Hercules cartoon, he did the voice of Hercules. Argo, another pretty big one for him. So we end up getting him in this episode. We also get Michelle Burke in this episode too, which it's always nice seeing her. She did. kind of a weird admission here, but kind of had a small crush on her after seeing her in Coneheads, where she plays a county Conehead, which is, I know it's just a weird fucking thing, but it is what it is. She was also in Major League Two, Dazed and Confused. I believe she's still in stuff too. Yeah, she is. She's been in stuff that's been announced right now, TV shows. But pretty well known actress, that's for sure. Now, other than them two, we also get Peter Dobson in this episode, and Peter, I don't know, he's one of those people where it's, I don't know, it's like he gets little bit parts, and the dude's good. He's been in a lot of really great things. He's in one of my personal favorite movies, The Frighteners. So it's pretty cool to see him in this at all. But he's definitely never like a main character, to say the least. Very recognizable person. We also get Ethan Suplee in this episode, who's probably best known from and I will say it's really weird seeing him in this episode just for the simple fact that he's so young. But he was in American History X as well as My Name is Earl. Those are probably the two biggest things for him. And we also got Megan Kavanaugh in this episode as well, who, regardless of what anybody says, and I know this woman's been in a ton of stuff, to me, she's always just going to be Essie from Dracula Dead and Loving It. And I just love that movie so much, but that kind of just gives away at least the cast for this episode. Now, this is a pretty weird episode, and as David's chiming in already. This episode's kind of like a pre-fight club. We get the main protagonist who feels like a nobody and has an imaginary friend who makes him feel like a winner. It's a very similar type thing, that's for sure. So we end up getting a story of a computer programmer who's kind of, in a way, slightly bullied at work. And I might be underplaying that, I don't know. But he's definitely pushed to do a lot of stuff where somebody else is taking credit for it. And obviously, this guy has a lot of stress in his life. And, when he goes home, you see him talking to his friend. And, we soon end up realizing that his friend is actually not even there. It's an imaginary friend, or, I guess we'll just basically, I'm going to throw it out there. It's not like I'm spoiling this 20 something year old, 30 something year old episode, but he definitely clearly has some kind of personality disorder. And I think it's a little bit deeper than an imaginary friend because the ending of this, which we will get to. Now, they end up, doing their thing, talking, and he ends up getting a knock at the door, and it's his new neighbor who ended up moving in. And they end up going out to dinner and having a good time. The imaginary friend disappears, comes back with these newer powers, kind of making him see things and basically trying to get him to murder this woman. Things don't end up working well. He ends up going home, and after going home, him and his imaginary friend get into a little bit of a tussle where the imaginary friend basically throws that personality out the window and kills him and takes over the body. And ends up when you see him at work, and now he's like the boss, which is a pretty fun story on its own. Until we get to the comic book. So now when we're talking about the comic book for this story, there's a pretty big difference. In fact, the only real similarity about this is there being a relationship in there that is causing issues. Now, with the comic book, there's these two best friends who've been best friends their whole life. And at this point, they're middle aged and they met when they were very young. And I think it was like a 20-year span. The one guy ends up becoming very, very interested in electronics and becoming like a master with electronics, while the other guy ends up becoming a master surgeon. Well, the guy that was really into electronics ends up getting to the point where he finds a woman and his friend is very nervous that they're not going to be friends anymore because he's going to get married. Which may I go ahead and throw out there. Sounds like a bullshit type thing, but in all reality, once you get married and have a family, I don't know about everybody personally, but I definitely noticed that I lost a lot of friends. So I think I guess I understand the relation with that one.
Yeah, you
But
just don't have the time to dedicate to the friend anymore.
oh, exactly, especially throwing kids in the picture.
Mhm.
I got young ones myself, so it's like I even if I wanted a bunch of friends, it's like fuck, how I don't even have time.
Right,
But
right. There's no time left, yeah.
no, none at all, none. So, anyways, going back to this comic book issue, with his friend being so nervous about it, he ends up performing a lobotomy on his best friend, taking out 3/4 of his brain, the creative side, the interesting side of his friend, and saving it in a jar, which is hooked up to a machine that lets the brain speak, while the other part of the guy's brain is married to this woman. So, for him to keep his best friend, he basically gets rid of most of his brain, still visits with the body of his friend on occasion, but is able to talk and hang out with the brain of his best friend.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so the whole story is basically like them reminiscing and talking with the flashback of what happened and brought them to that point, which
Mm.
is pretty insane to sit there and think about it. Like, all right, so it'd be like, say you and I were like super, super close and you get married. It's like, all right, well, I'm going to take like 3/4 of your brain and just chat with it while you go off and have your relations and do what you do. And it's like, wow, what the fuck?
It's
But
pretty
it's,
twisted.
oh yeah, it's like I said, it's a very different story. Definitely
Mhm.
very, very different. And personally, I liked it a lot more. Now, I guess to go ahead and wrap up the episode talk on here. I will say that personally, the episode by itself wasn't a horrible one. It was still fun. The effects in it were okay considering what it was. I mean, it didn't really have too much going on with it. A little bit of like a disappearing type act, and Todd Masters, who did the special effects for it. I mean, congratulations, you had an easy week in comparison to some of the other things I've seen you do, especially with like fitting punishment, which if you go back and listen to the episode I did with Todd Masters, you will see that I was quite obsessed with them do, basically draining the blood out of a body and how they did the work for it. But
Mhm.
overall, I'd still give this episode probably about a 6.5 myself. I think they could have made it closer to the comic book, and I think the comic book all around had a better story. With that being said, Anne, where would you rate this episode?
I was going to give it like a 7.5. I mean, I'm not familiar with it as a comic book, so just kind of looking at it as a standalone piece. I mean, it was interesting to watch. It was kind of interesting to see the character evolve to the other personality, things like that. Again, nothing mind bending, but I found it interesting.
Right. Well, sometimes that's all you can ask for.
Mhm.
So, anyways, to go ahead and jump back into everything that you have going on, I want to know a little bit more about what you have going on with the It Came From Somewhere. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there that I do have the actual link going ahead and being scrolled across there so everybody can check that out whenever they want to. And I will also go ahead and post that in all of the chats. So if you don't want to sit there and find it and type it all out, you can just go ahead and click any of these links and they will take you directly to the Indiegogo page, which we are going to be heading over to right now, just so we can talk a little bit more about it.
Awesome. We also have a shortcut. If you just type in itcamefromsomewhere.com, it'll take you right there.
Well, there we go. I wish I had that link. No. Well, it's fine. Um, Now to go ahead and start actually, getting into this a little bit. I will say that you guys are at almost a 40% now, which I mean, considering that S.J. Herman, which he's the writer, correct?
Yes, that's correct. And director.
Yes. And director. Considering he's only had 3 campaigns, I mean that's realistically not too bad. And you still got a lot of time left. So,
Mhm.
hopefully, you guys can actually get a lot closer to this goal, which is really, really cool. Now, I do want to talk and tell everybody a little bit more about some of these perks. So, for $99, you're doing a download film and more. And this is actually on sale right now. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, so that includes, I'm going to get the whole list here. You can download the completed film, and again, it's going to be a feature-length film, about 70 minutes, we're estimating. You can get a digital copy of the signed poster, signed by cast and crew, a DVD that's a director's cut, so that'll include some behind-the-scenes footage, and some recognition in terms of special thanks in the film credits and special thanks on IMDb. Also, a signed copy of the script that you can download. And of course, in social media, we'll give you a shout out. We have a Facebook group that's got a little over 2,300 members right now, and we'll give you a personalized shout out on that and include anything from your background that you would like to emphasize. If you have a business you want to promote, or if you're an actor or a filmmaker or whatever you want to promote, we'll include that in the social media shout out.
That's very cool. Now, with that being said, I mean, you probably gave away a few of these. So, for $1, you're doing the social shout out, which I'm assuming is what you just talked about.
Yeah, and some people think, well, like, why would you want people to give $1? And the whole thing is we want to spread the word about the film. So we're hoping that if somebody gives $1 and maybe some of their friends see the posts that we have about them, that they'll be encouraged to look into the film and see if it's something they're interested in as well.
Right. And that's true. And let's be honest, too. I mean, every dollar counts. I mean, you're not trying to
Absolutely.
raise a huge amount. And I mean, even if you get
Mhm.
5,000 people to just donate $1, I mean, there's a movie.
Right, exactly.
So,
Yeah,
I
and,
mean,
yeah, we're not, paying ourselves fistfuls of money or any of that kind of stuff. Right now, we're just trying to get the cast paid, cover our expenses in terms of, getting everybody fed,
right.
different
I'm
expenses.
assuming that's something more than just ramen noodles.
Yeah, yeah, we try to feed people decent, and we're not gonna be having sushi every night, but,
Right.
yeah.
But it'd be nice to at least have like meat on the menu.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit of that, some vegetables, gotta have water.
Oh, yeah, of course. Um, Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and continue this. We got the special thanks, which is for $5, which I'm assuming is going to probably be more of a digital type thing, considering that you have an IMBD one for more of the, I guess people that are searching to expand their IMBD credits as well.
Right. Yeah. A lot of folks, sometimes it can be controversial. People kind of criticize filmmakers for like giving away IMDb credits.
I
Way,
see it all the time.
yeah, the way we look at it is, we want some help with the film, and maybe people want some help with their position in life or their role in the filmmaking industry. And let's say you live in a really remote area, there's a snowball's chance in hell that you'll ever actually be in a film yourself because there's like no filmmaking happening anywhere that you live. You can be involved with filmmaking by earning IMDb credits and, build up a roster and connections with people. I mean, your name
Right.
will be out there. Who knows who you'll connect with in the future? It's all about networking.
Right. Not to mention, it's just a cool story to tell your friends, like, oh, hey, you can go and IMBD me, like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
yeah, I get it. I don't understand why it's so controversial. I'm also not a filmmaker. So, I mean, maybe it's just not my place to say. But, to each their own. If it makes somebody
Exactly.
happy, who cares? Um,
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
Digital download signed poster for $10. So that's a different one. You don't see too many of those digital like that. Are you guys planning on doing anything physical with signatures too, or no?
Right now we're kind of avoiding the physical stuff just because it adds overhead that
Right.
then takes away from the money we can use to actually make the film. So if you go with a real poster, you've got to pay to print it.
Yeah.
You've got to, get some shipping tubes. We have supporters all over the world.
Oh, yeah.
So you're getting into international postage and stuff. You don't want it to take like 4 months to get to somebody. You want to have it delivered in reasonable time. And with digital download, as soon as we have it available and you buy it, I'll give you the link and you can download the thing right away. And then you can take it to your local printer and get it printed off if you want to hang it on the wall or whatever. And some people just like to be able to have it on their computer screen, screensaver, whatever.
All right. With that going on, we got a VIP virtual screening. So I'm assuming this is just a one-time viewing and not a digital download.
Right.
And
So that's like a
correct
watch
me if
party.
I'm wrong, but that one has a Q&A attached to it too, doesn't it?
Right. So that's a watch party with the cast and crew. So,
Very
once
cool.
we have the film available, like kind of before the public can see it, we'll gather everybody together, either like this kind of a meeting on StreamYard or a Zoom meeting or however we decide to implement it. We'll try to pick a time that's convenient to all the time zones, and go ahead and
Good
have it.
luck.
It's hard. It's hard. Like we have one coming up for the prior film we did, which is an 80s slasher horror film called Trepidity. And we're having that VIP premiere on a Friday night at like 8 p.m. because we've got a big fan in India. And he's got to get up at 6 in the morning on Saturday, his time, but he can participate live with all the people if he wants to. And we'll record it so that if everybody can't make it, they can watch the recording, and we can always try to connect them online if they have a particular cast member they want to ask questions to.
Very cool. Very cool. I actually that is not a perk that you see very often, and that is one that I've backed quite a few things. I will say if you ever go and look me up on there, I do have two different profiles. One is a personal one, one is a professional one. So
Mhm.
just keep that in mind. Um, well, I mean, I keep what I do and what I do personally separate, but I actually really really like that one, the virtual screening and the Q&A and everything. I mean, that's a really cool option and something that not a lot of people do have. And if anybody is out there getting ready to do an Indiegogo, do some kind of Kickstarter, whatever, and they're trying to think of perks, I mean, that is a great idea to take from. So, if you're making a movie, I mean, I can't suggest that enough. That is a really, really cool option. Um,
Okay.
oh yeah, I wish I would have thought of it. I mean, that's a really cool one. um, you got the digital download signed script. That one's going to be a pretty cool one too. I'm assuming, because I'm assuming that the script and what's actually on screen when they get to see, like, especially like the director's cut DVD. I'm assuming then you're going to be able to compare and take notes and be like, well, this didn't make it to screen.
Right.
So, that's always one of my favorite things. So I got a lot of the old scripts from Tales from the Crypt, and it's like, well, this doesn't match what happened at all, but this is cool.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like
that
this.
happens sometimes.
To go ahead and continue on from here, we also get the digital download film, which is $25. Another really cool perk. Nowadays you get to see, especially on like the Indiegogo stuff, is a lot of people trying to push the physical media, which is cool. Don't get me wrong, and I am a huge fan of physical media, but on the other end of it too, I do appreciate being able to digitally catalog everything that I have as well.
Mhm.
And I do have to ask though, when they do this as a digital download film, what kind of format are they actually downloading? Because I know that, for instance, if this is like a 4K video, I mean, 70 minutes. I mean, you're talking a extremely large file size, or is this going to be something just done in like a
Mhm.
1080p or is it literally going to be like DVD quality and kind of running closer to like a 480p where it's like 4 to 600 megabytes?
Yeah, I mean, what we did with Trepidity is the exact same film that we're submitting to streaming services is what you get to download. Now, that one's not feature length, it's about 40 minutes runtime. But yeah, we just put it up on a Google Drive and we'll give you the Google Drive link and you can
All right.
fire it. Yeah, there you
All right,
go. It's delivered as an MP4 in terms of the actual file format.
okay. All right. So it's all right. Yeah. So with an MP4, it's probably 720 to 1080p then. Because I know that a lot of the higher resolution stuff, they went more of the MKV route.
Mhm.
Um, let's go ahead and continue on. So now we're getting to the special thanks IMBD and credits. That's a cool one because you're actually getting into the credits as well, and that one's running $30. Um,
Mhm.
now I do have to ask, like, say those sell out like crazy, like, you gonna expand the credits like a whole extra like 2 minutes to put all the names in there?
Yeah, so
So-
what we did with the prior film, and I actually built the credits portion of the video file, is I copied and pasted everybody's name. Yeah, it took a long time. So one thing to keep in mind with the 1950s style that we're implementing, I mean, we're trying to follow it as religiously as possible. So if you fire up one of those old films like Plan 9 from Outer Space, you will
yes.
see that some of the credits actually come on the screen before the film starts.
Yes.
So not the special thanks because they
No,
actually doesn't have
those are
that.
always at the end, but yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I
those
know
are at the
exactly what
end.
you mean.
But the producer credits are all, and the cast credits are all going to be before the actual film starts. So
Yes.
you can get your friends to see your name up in lights, like right at the beginning rather than wait until the end of the film.
Right. Well, this is yeah, definitely pretty cool there. Obviously we got the DVD director's cut. Now, with you doing the digital download as well as a VIP private screening, is there going to be a difference between those versus the director's cut DVD?
Well, the DVD is going to include some behind the scenes footage,
All right.
whereas if you do the digital download, that's just the finished film. That doesn't include that extra stuff.
Okay. All right. I was pretty curious about that because I know it's like I said, it's labeled a little bit different.
Mhm.
All right, now we get into some of these other options. We got the assistant producer credit for $40. Um, and wow, those are actually selling out pretty cool. So I mean that's actually a
Mhm.
pretty good perk there. Um, now I know we were talking about some of the stuff being controversial when it comes to giving credits and everything. Um, now with that being said, because and I'm going to scroll ahead here a little bit because I know you got the assistant producer, you got associate producer, co-producer, and executive producer.
Right.
Now this is something I've always been curious about, and kind of just curious on people's take of it and exactly what they're going to be doing with it. But I know at certain levels, there's really not a lot of involvement. But I know when you get up to like for instance, like an executive producer, um, I know that in what would you call it, like a more Hollywood setting, that they actually do have quite a bit of say of what's being filmed and what's being put on screen and anything. Um, or do any of these people get any of that as well, or is it more for the credit?
It's really more for the credit. And part of that is just like the stage that we're at. So our script is written already.
All right.
So we're not at that very, very early point where we want input in terms of the story, what shows up on screen and things like that. Our script is written. We've had a table read with all the actors. The film is cast in terms of all the speaking roles. We are still casting background actors, and I'm actually doing that casting myself. So yeah, these perks are more for the involvement. I mean, we may ask for opinions on things like we're in the process of getting the movie poster designed right now. So if the
All right.
artist comes to me with with two different, design ideas. I might take those to that group of people and say, just kind of give me some feedback on this stuff. And I wouldn't necessarily generally ask the public about that, because the people who have gotten on board with us, they're just really more vested and more interested in the details of what's going on.
Right, which does make sense. I was just kind of curious if they also got that kind of a extra perk attached to it.
Yeah, and every film is different. There are other films
Yeah,
that I've seen on Indiegogo where, basically they have an idea, but they have not written any of the script yet. So maybe one of the perks is, you get to help, vote on the ending, or vote on a critical turning point within the script or whatever. We like to have our ideas like totally fleshed out before we go to people and say, and will you give us some money to help us get this thing
right.
into reality? So it's just a different approach that we take from some other people.
Well, which is completely fine. I was just kind of curious. You see it quite a bit, but you don't get to actually talk about it too much. If people do get a little bit more input with that being one of those things. And I like, for instance, like Tales from the Crypt, for instance, like I know there's a long list of producers that were attached to that, and I mean they all had quite a bit of say when it came to virtually anything and everything that was being done on screen.
Right.
So you just never know. So it's always just something, if I get the chance to ask it, I'm going to just kind
Mhm.
of
That's
um
fair.
now we also got in here a special thanks and signed script. Is that a special thanks as a IMBD credit, special thanks as a um like actual credit in the films?
Yeah, that one I believe includes both. Let me just click on it to be
Yeah, I'm
sure.
sharing the screen. I'm afraid to click it and lose where it is.
No,
So,
that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. Yeah, special thanks on IMDb and in the film credits.
all right. So they get all that as well as
Yeah,
and
so
I'm
it's
assuming
like
that's
a
a
combo
digital script,
deal.
right?
Yep.
All right. Now we also got in here the it came from somewhere photo and film, and you guys are gonna have 15 of those, which is a
Yeah.
well, that's a different. Original November 2022 is crossed out, and it's current November 2022.
Well, that's because that's Indiegogo. I mean, I updated the quantity. I mean, initially, we just had 10.
Oh,
We had so much interest that I bumped the quantity to 15, and then it scratched out the date and put the same date again. I don't get
all
it.
right. I was like, I've never seen that before. That's weird. Yeah, I those ones
Yes,
are always pretty
for
cool
that,
ones,
well, we're
though.
gonna have a scene where, so, part of the storyline, let me just, kind of do the storyline real quick.
Yeah, yeah.
There,
Please do,
um,
please do.
there's a spaceship that has crashed on Earth, and in that spaceship, there were a couple aliens and a creature that they were transporting, and the creature escapes, and there are groups of teenagers that the aliens team up with, and they're trying to find this creature, and the creature doesn't really get humans and doesn't really like humans, so people may die. And the aliens get very impatient with humans, and so people may die. Um, so the photo in the film is that you were one of the victims of either the alien or the creature, and there's a scene where one of the main characters is going to be going through and saying, "Oh, look at all these, these poor people. We've got to do something to save this town. Look at so and so and so and so and so and so." So we're going to actually, show, kind of like a headshot, chest to head type of a photo of these people that have purchased this perk. And so we're not going to just, blur past them. I mean, your face would be clearly seen in the film, and then you will be considered part of the cast. So if we get back to those film credits, the cast credits are right
Uh,
at the very beginning of the film, and then they're repeated again at the end. So with this perk, you get credit as a cast member on IMDb and credit as a cast member in the film.
very cool, very cool. That's definitely thinking outside the box there. I mean, I've seen people do like the photos and films, and um, I've seen them do it on more of like the all right, you'll be one of the missing people type thing, and kind of a similar situation. but I've
Yeah,
never
fan-
seen them do it as a okay, now you're a cast member as well. And that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
Um, we already talked about the associate producer. All right, here we go. VIP visit to set. Now I'm assuming that is you or yeah, for $200 you're not getting flown there or anything. You're going there yourself.
No. Yes, transportation and lodging are not included. So um, while we're filming, I have a role in the film. I'm also producer and I am assistant director. So basically, you would be following me around for the day and learning what it's like to be behind the camera rather than in front of the camera. So, everything from how do we decide what order we film these scenes in? How do we decide where the camera should be? How far back should we set the camera? All that kind of stuff. You would see all the ongoings behind the set. And we're filming in central Illinois, kind of in the middle of a bunch of cornfields. Farmer City is one of the towns we're going to film in. Another town name is Dewey, Illinois. So it's not like a major metropolitan area. So people would have to get themselves there. And that's the challenge with that one. And probably why we don't have any takers is that we're not filming like downtown Chicago where there's a lot of people available who can just like Uber their way to set. You'd have to intentionally go to the middle of nowhere in Illinois, but it's a great location for filming because it's got a lot of nostalgic look to it. When we film in the downtown area, we actually have people with 1950s cars that are bringing them to set so we can place them on the street, to really get that 1950s ambiance going. So it would be fun to actually see that if you've never seen that type of thing done before.
That is pretty cool. That's for sure. I that's a pretty cool perk. Now I do have to ask, do they get to partake in the catering?
Oh yeah,
All
yeah,
right, so
yeah,
so
yeah,
for
well, yeah.
$200, guys, you go there and you get a free meal. You just got to eat your
Yes.
$200 worth. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, you could try to eat your $200 worth. Go for it.
Well, I
But
mean
if we run out of food, then you got to get in the car with me and go fetch some more food. So.
that's fair. That's fair. And yeah, we already talked about the co-producer and the executive producer credits as well.
Mhm,
So to go ahead and continue on while talking about your Indiegogo here. Um, Obviously, you got quite a bit that's going on with it. Now, I want to get into the cast a little bit. So you got Paige Bourne as Betty. You
mhm.
got Bill Russell as Grimwell. You got Beth Metcalf as Quasar. Did I say that
Yep,
right? All right,
yep.
there we go. Awesome. You got Jake Yanko as Luma. You got Randall Cole as the Creature. Um, Hopefully the alien doesn't look like that other creature.
And
We
actually,
got Ash.
you've already scrolled past the aliens. Quasar and Luma are the aliens.
Oh,
In the
all
story.
right. He's the creature.
He's the
All right.
creature. Yeah.
Yeah, Ashley Hefner as Mary.
Mhm.
Um, Tatum Shoesmith as Rita. Magdalena Conway as Patty. Miranda Kilpatrick as Beverly. Delilah Hefner as Mary. And Myrna as Dolores. And then you got the crew as well. So you got Steve Herman as the writer and director. Brian Parkerson as the writer. Ashley Hefner is directing. Ann Myrna is producing assistant directing. Tony Parsons is doing the sound and the music. So yeah, you're definitely not joking. You have this thing fully casted. I mean, all the way down to the sound. Now, just curious, are you guys doing the editing yourself too, or are you going to be sending that out?
No, we do the editing ourselves. Actually, Steve Herman, the writer and director, he does most of the editing. Gets some support if needed. And we've worked with Tony Parsons before on our prior film, Trepidity. And so he will, find sound effects, and then he's also going to compose some custom music so that when the drama builds, as it does in 1950s creature features, you're going to get
Oh,
that
and it
style of
does.
music. Yeah.
That's very, very cool, huh? Um, Now, can you tell us anything special about the cast with this? Because I've noticed that, obviously these people have worked together on, multiple things, all for Acrostar Films.
Correct.
Like what Blood Sisters is definitely one of the big ones, which is just so everybody knows, is available over on their YouTube channel, which I will be sharing as well, so everybody can go ahead and check that out. Um, I'm I just copied the YouTube channel and sent it over so people can click it. There's probably a cooler one to type in other than all the letters and numbers, but go ahead, click that link, give them a subscribe, check out some of the stuff they have going on. But other than the work that they've done with Acrostar, has anybody else done anything else, or is this just a lot of local talent, if you will? Because I did notice that there's, obviously some of the people are related. I've noticed the last name being the same on a few people.
A few Hefners involved.
Yeah, it just a few. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Paige Bourne, who is the first one on the list, she has been on Chicago PD in a
All
speaking
right.
role, a co-star role. So that's something that people have heard of. Most of us have experience with other independent films, which are harder to find. So what typically happens with an
Well, I know.
independent film is that the filmmaker is in control of the destiny of the finished product.
Yes.
I've been in some independent films where the final destination must have been a garbage can. Like I never get the footage. I never see the final product. I did the work. I have nothing to show for it. So every independent filmmaker kind of figures out what they're going to do with their end product. Sometimes they want to,
Yeah.
get it on a streaming service. They want to get it on Amazon, on Tubi. They want to go for Netflix.
And sometimes nothing happens.
And sometimes nothing happens, or like the kind of the default is YouTube.
Yeah.
But the filmmakers, it's hard to make money off of independent films. You can get enough traffic to your YouTube channel to get the channel monetized, and then you do earn some money, but it's not like you're rolling in dough.
No.
Also, the way the YouTube monetization works is you have to keep your number of visitors and views high. So they reevaluate you every month. And so you may
Oh
be
yeah.
monetized at one point in time, and then if your viewership falls, then all of a sudden
Yeah.
you're not making money off your
You have
YouTube.
so many subscribers, so many hours being viewed, everything, and
Yeah, yeah, and it's not just,
you know,
if you just click play, like that doesn't count. Like you gotta play enough of it to count as a view.
right. So well,
So
sometimes it's better just to have the content out there to get your name out there too, though. So
exactly. But well, and the other thing is that a lot of the independent films are passion projects.
oh yeah,
Um, they're becoming a film because somebody really wants them to become a film. So in the case of Acrostar Films, S.J. Herman, that's his pen name. He has written 8 or 9 books. They're all available on Amazon. You can download them on Kindle and read them. He doesn't print them physically. It's all digital delivery, again, keeping the overhead low. But once he started publishing books, he wanted his books turned into film. And the only way that he could find to do that was to learn filmmaking and
right,
get a camera and get behind the camera and recruit some actors and start making some films. And he himself will talk about how he's gone through this progression and with everything. I mean, the more experience you get with it, the better you get at it.
right,
So level of quality wise, I mean, all of his stuff I find to be very good. And one of the reasons that I choose to work with Acrostar Films is the writing is top notch. I mean, there's nothing kludgy about the stories. They don't just fall off the cliff and then the credits come up. Like they actually have a beginning, a middle, and an end. They have story development, they have character development. So I'm drawn to the stories first off. And then when I saw even the initial films that he made, I thought they were really very good. They had some really good cinematic qualities to them, even though they were shorts. So I wanted to figure out how I could get involved. And there was a role that was available for my age range in a series called Morium. It's actually a trilogy of books that he wrote that I've read. It's a very, very good story. So it's about, it's kind of an anti-bullying theme. So there's some kids and they're high school age and they get bullied, and the kids who got bullied all of a sudden get like supernatural powers. And so they have a bit of a moral dilemma as to whether or not they should use those powers to avenge the bullies, or should they try to use them for good. And the two main characters kind of, go opposite directions, and then all kinds of stuff ensues. And it was just a really, really good story to me, with some morals kind of built in there, but some supernatural aspects to it as well. So very creative.
And that was Morium, right?
Morium, yeah. I auditioned for a role in that, and he didn't cast me. And rather than saying, "Oh, the hell with them, I'm going to go in another direction," I kept in touch and, looked at other projects that were going on and asked if there was a way that I could be involved, if not on camera, is there something else I could do? And so when he wanted to adapt Trepidity to film, which is that slasher, I said, "Well, yeah, how can I help?" And he's like, "Well, how about producer? Give that a shot." And I didn't have any experience doing that. And so even though I'm old, I'm still learning things. I didn't even start acting until late in my life, at the age of 58. And so I'm just trying to learn as much as I can and help out as much as I can.
Well, hey, sometimes that's all you can do. And at the end of the day, as long as you're happy with it, it doesn't matter. And just for those who are looking for Morium and want to check that out, I went ahead and posted the YouTube link for episode 1 of that. So you can go ahead and click that, check that out as well. Well, obviously, with me going ahead and sharing the AcroStar films, I mean, you're going to be seeing a lot anyway. I mean, it seems like he's doing fairly well with the AcroStar films. I mean, there's you're getting views on everything. I mean, he has a few different kind of series that are being based off of there, and hitting a few different points. I will say I'm pretty excited to see what's going to go on with Trepidity. That one is not on there yet. When is that going to be released, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, we actually still have an Indiegogo campaign going on that one, because it's what they call in demand on Indiegogo. So it came from somewhere, Indiegogo page. If you click on the S.J. Herman there toward the top, and view full profile, it'll link you over to the Trepidity Finishing Funds campaign.
Yes.
And with that one, you can download the film today, and I could send you the link and you could watch it. About 40 minutes runtime. We are in the process of trying to get that one on streaming platforms. So
right.
You never know how long it's going to take them to get back to you, is the thing.
Well,
it's been submitted, so we're kind of working through that process.
Well, that's actually really, really cool. I'm excited to see how that one's going to go, and I've actually already went ahead and shared that link as well. So if anybody, maybe the 50s style kind of creature feature isn't really for you, which is fine, but especially people that are watching this, they know specifically, especially on the other show that I do with Chuck. We are pretty big in the slashers, especially that whole 80s era. And, so go ahead, check that out. It looks like there's quite a few perks on there as well. And you can get a download of that film for $15, which is pretty cool. And I know you're doing all the digital perks, as well as a virtual screening on that as well, which is pretty
the virtual
cool.
Screening for that one is coming up September 23rd.
Ooh, very cool. So, obviously there's quite a bit for people to check out with both those projects, which is awesome. Before we go ahead and continue, though, I got a little trailer for this. So I want to go ahead and play this so everyone can go ahead and check out the trailer from It Came From Somewhere.
Greetings, my friends. What you are about to witness is true. The names and places have been changed to protect those who witnessed the horror that happened. So therefore I must ask you, my friends, can you handle the truth? Can you handle the unbelievable things that you are about to see before your eyes?
Looks really fun. I mean, I definitely love the whole look that you guys are going for with this already. I'm pretty excited. Now, do you have a rough release date for this yet, or no?
Not exactly. I mean, it'll for sure be before the end of the year.
All right, that's some pretty quick editing on a full feature.
Yeah,
So
we
I
don't mess,
mean,
we don't mess
no,
around.
I mean, man, I mean, I've seen, for instance, a good friend of the show, Ron Perty, his last short. I mean, I think that took like 5 6 months or something to edit. I mean, it took forever, and it's like a 10-minute short. So it's
Yeah,
like, wow,
yeah, Steve Herman is very goal oriented, and I mean he doesn't mess around. He's so focused, even though he's like Blood Sisters is an ongoing series, so there's like one of those released every month. I mean, he'll get that done. He'll get this done. He already has decided pretty much what he thinks his next book adaptation is going to be. And we've already started to talk about how we would film it, some potential cast in that. So yeah, his creativity has no end.
that's awesome. And we need people like that. That's for
Absolutely.
damn sure. So, anyways, though, I mean, I'm very excited. I hope everyone's going to be able to get a chance to see everything that's going on with this. Hopefully, they check out the Indiegogo. And if you're watching this on the podcast, or I'm sorry, listening, click that show notes. Go to Indiegogo. Spare $1 at least. Come on, if we can get at least 5,000 of us to do $1, I mean, we just basically made a fucking movie, guys.
Yeah,
So do what you can, and if you can't, do the next best thing. Share it.
absolutely. Please do.
Um, and thank you so much for coming on. It's always a pleasure to have new people on,
Oh,
especially
great.
talking about some tales from the crypt and some 1950s sci-fi type horror, which is right up my fucking alley. I mean, I for those who know me, I just picked up 3 weird science titles over the last week, and it's a get. That's a good get for me, and those are really fucking cool books and some of my favorites. So
Well,
I'm
thanks so
definitely
much for
excited for
having me.
this.
I really appreciate it. It was a blast talking to you.
Well, thank you very much. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. So thanks everybody once again for watching. Thanks for checking us out. Please check out the Indiegogo. Also check out our sponsors, Sydney. Go ahead, get yourself those wax melts, save a little bit of money, and House Mysterious Secrets. And last but not least, get a comic book. Um, I heard that there's a lot of people that are having a hard time reading and learning how to read lately. A comic book is a great way to learn. Obviously, I made that up and it's probably total bullshit, but still buy this fucking book. It's awesome. You will love it. Um, if you like horror, you're gonna love it. If you don't, then I mean, I wouldn't suggest it. There's some pretty fucked up shit in there. Um, I mean, I wrote a story. Chuck Nasty wrote a story. Ron Perty wrote a story. That's 3 fucked up people writing a comic book together. It's gonna be fucking insane. If you like weird shit, check it out. talesfrompodcast.com. Click that link. Got a few different versions available. And I'm the one shipping them. So if you want my signature, I can at least do that. It's not worth a fucking thing, but you might want it anyway. So thank you.
Someday, though. Someday.
Someday. Yeah, you never know. Hey, maybe. But thank you once again so much for coming on. And with that being said, the crypt is closed.
Thanks for listening, kiddies. You're all a scream.